In this video, where to stay in Playa del Carmen, Mexico. Whether you're looking to visit for vacation for a week or you're a digital nomad looking to visit for 1 to 3 to 6 months, in this video, we're going to break down the best neighborhoods in Playa del Carmen, cost of living, and exactly where you should stay in this city to have the best experience possible. Now, Playa del Carmen has been growing massively, right? This city has gone from 150,000 people to some estimates are that the total in high season is over 250,000 now, and the city just keeps growing. It's growing out into the jungle. And there's this area called Playacar. What is Playacar? So Playacar is basically a gated private community. I guess it says here an upscale, upmarket residential villas, resorts, golf club. So this is a private community lined with mansions. If you are a family looking to travel to Playa, I would recommend Playacar. You can rent a mansion for, I don't know, $3,000 a month, something like that. Be walking distance from the beach, and it's great. The problem with Playacar, though, is there's basically only two entrances and exits. There's one here, and there's one here near the Centro. And so if you're, say, like here on this side, it's not walkable at all, because you wouldn't be able to walk to this entrance, and you wouldn't be able to really walk to this entrance either. So you probably need an electric scooter or a bicycle, or you'll have to take a lot of taxis, but the taxis will charge quite a lot for people in Playacar. So something to consider, that if you are maybe a family and you're looking to stay in Playacar, either you're going to want to have a car, or you're going to want to stay like really close to this entrance so that you have access to the city here. Okay, so that's Playacar. If you're single, you do not want to stay here. Guests, it's really hard to get guests in. You need a driver's license or ID for any guest that's coming in, and you have to sign them in, and it's just a huge hassle. So if you're single, do not stay in Playacar. If you're a family, if you're a retiree, great spot. It's actually pretty much what I would recommend for most families. But that's Playacar, and it's the right fit for the right type of person. Okay? Moving just off of Playacar, you'll notice here that there's the Ado terminal. So the Ado is the main bus line in Playa del Carmen, and actually really in the whole south and east of Mexico. And they're really modern buses. Like, you can tell that these buses are nicer than an American Greyhound bus. They're cleaner, they're bigger. So the buses in Mexico are very clean and very modern. And this is the bus that's going to take you to and from the Cancun airport. Now, there's two different Ado stops or bus terminals in the city. There's the one right here, and then there's one over on 14th. So you might end up at either one. This one down by the beach near Parque Los Fundadores is the more common one to end up at. So just so you can sort of locate yourself. Okay. With that out of the way, so let's give you some general guidelines of where to stay, and then maybe I'll go into a little bit more detail and a little bit more granular. But basically, for 90% of circumstances, you're going to want to always stay below the highway. So this is the highway, the 307, and you're going to want to stay on this side of the highway. If you stay on the other side of the highway, in this area called Ejidal, or I guess over here, La Toscana, no one's heard of this. But if you stay on this side of the highway, it's going to be a lot cheaper. Rent is going to be a lot less expensive. It's going to be a lot more local of an experience. There's not going to be as many gringos and tourists running around. There's definitely some. But you're going to be a little bit far from the beach. You're going to need a bicycle. And just logistically, it's going to make it harder for you to meet up with friends and go to whatever, go to salsa night and this kind of thing, because everything really happens down on 10th, somewhere like around 10th Street or 5th Street. So if you're up on the other side of the highway, it's usually not worth it for the savings, right? You might save a couple $100, $500 a month on rent, but you're gonna be spending a lot of time just commuting back and forth into the city and near the beach. And obviously, it's a little bit rougher accommodations here, a little bit less safe, and a little bit less of that community feel. So that's kind of the rule that everyone always says if you ask people, is stay south of the highway. Now I have more tips than just that. Like, we're gonna go even more granular than just stay south of the highway, but that's basically rule number one, is always stay south of the highway. Okay? Now, this maybe at first glance, like you might not be able to tell like what's actually the downtown and what's not based on this map, but the real sort of high density downtown basically starts at Playacar, or starts sort of at Benito Juarez here, and goes, and it's been expanding this way. So I guess the history of Playa del Carmen is, the beating heart was really around here. The city hall is actually right here, the Palacio Municipal. So the city hall is here. This area has always been quite built up, basically between this ferry terminal and this ferry terminal on Constituyentes. So this is like the most built up area of Playa del Carmen. And then this way, kind of expanding northeast, I guess you would say, has been steadily growing, and the city has been growing this way. But obviously that comes with growing pains. It comes with more construction and a lot of like random empty lots and stuff like that. So I remember when I first went to Playa del Carmen like 6 years ago, CTM, or Avenida CTM, was like really like the outskirts of the city. Like there were new buildings coming in, but most people didn't want to be out here. Now things have changed. Like now the city is really kind of like developed, and the infrastructure has built around it. And now CTM is like a fully legit place to stay. You have the beach down here that's walking distance and everything. So CTM is fully legit. But once you start getting further out, it starts getting a little bit rougher. Now, this whole area used to be like relatively rough between CTM and Colosio, and this area is now gentrifying quite a lot between CTM and Colosio, because Playa 72 is like really one of the best beach entrances in the whole city. Like this beach is honestly fantastic. So, staying near the entrance to Playa 72 would be pretty cool. But then once you get past once you get past 72, now it starts getting quite a bit rougher, basically between 72 and 110. A lot of people would make the mistake of staying out here, but Colosio is a little bit rough. So I guess Colosio is technically anything between CTM and 110, and it's reasonably nice on this part, like, before Avenida Colosio, and really before like 58, let's say. Like this is a good little nook right here. But anything on this side really starts getting quite a bit rougher, and especially if you go above Avenida Treinta. So let's see if we can just zoom in here and do a street view and see what it's looking like. So it doesn't look too bad. I mean, it depends on your standards, but obviously looks a little bit rougher than closer to downtown. And the reason for this, by the way, is because I think a lot of this was just originally squatted. A lot of Colosio, like I don't think Colosio was actually really zoned to be residential, even though the streets are, perfectly rectangular in grid format. But I was always kind of told that a lot of people just like squatted here, and that's why a lot of places kind of look pretty rough because this was just, if someone actually paid for this, I don't know if it would look like that. But anyway, so that's Colosio. And then one thing I kind of forgot to mention is, even though you want to stay on this side of the highway, if you stay above 30th, so this is 30th, so there's 30th and then 35th and then 40 and then 45th and then 50 is the highway. But if you stay between 30 and 50, you kind of start being further from the beach, where it becomes quite a long walk to the beach, especially if you're up at 40. And things get a little bit rough up at 40 as well, not too bad, but basically like it's very nice between 30 and the beach, and then between 30 and 50, it can start getting a little rough, kind of depending on the block. And it's kind of like a weird mixed community where there's going to be a mix of old developments from like, I don't know, the 90s, and then just like crazy stuff like this, but then also new developments and new buildings as well. So it's definitely gentrifying quite a lot. But you can see we're on 28 here, which is a really, really good street, but we're just high up because we're at 28 and 45 or something like that. And that's why it doesn't look quite as nice up there. But if you came down to 28 and 25, now we're kind of in the nice area, and nice buildings, very first world amenities and so forth, and lush trees and stuff like that. So a couple blocks can really make a very big difference in terms of your experience. So some more general rules here. You've probably heard of Quinta Avenida or Fifth Avenue, and that's this pedestrian-only street that stretches from the ferry terminal and goes really like all the way. So if you see this, Quinta Avenida, it goes all the way past CTM, all the way past Playa 72, and really goes all the way to the end. So Quinta stretches the whole city, and sort of like the beating heart of activity in Playa because it's pedestrian only. So there's always kind of hundreds of people out. And then on Avenida 10th Avenue, it's not pedestrian only. There are cars, but there's still just so much activity here. It's restaurants and bars and pharmacies and plazas and really everything you can imagine. There's a bike lane as well. So Avenida 10 is a good place to be. Now, one thing to keep in mind for Playa to have a really good experience is that the noise is really important, because this is a party town. There's nightclubs, there's beach clubs, and you're going to want to be able to sleep at night. And if you live too close to the party area, which is a lot of areas, then the music's going to be absolutely thumping till 2, 3, 4, 5 in the morning, and you're not going to be able to sleep. So you kind of need to strategically choose to stay somewhere that you're close enough to the action that you can walk to it, but you're far enough that you can sleep. And so where are the nightclubs? Obviously, it's going to change year to year, but what you can do is you can just type nightclub in here to kind of get a feel for where they are. And you go, okay, well, this looks like there's a congregation here. And this is kind of one of the big congregations. You have Mandala and Abolengo and this place called Santito Tuntun. So this is really like one of the biggest nightclub conglomerations here. So obviously you wouldn't want to stay anywhere near here, like literally like multi-block concentric circle. Avoid staying here because you're going to hear speakers and music until very, very late at night, right? Looks like there's a bunch of nightclubs here. You got Santino. So you don't want to stay anywhere near here either, right? You need to make like a circle of no-go zones. And by the way, it's not just nightclubs. Like a restaurant bar could easily have a live band, and that'll keep you up. Or just play music anyway, and that'll keep you up. So just something to keep in mind is noise is really important. I try to stay kind of like a 10-minute walk from the action, but not too close to the action. And so the best way to do that I've found is to stay. This is kind of my favorite little area here, is near Deportivo Mario Villanueva. So this is like the sports complex. It actually has a couple tennis courts. It's got a running track. It has basketball courts. It has like an outdoor gym thing right here. And it's good to be near this park because there's the Chedraui here, like the really big supermarket. So you'll get access to a supermarket nearby. You'll get access to an outdoor gym and basketball courts and a running track here. And then the beach entrance is quite close as well. And so I like to stay in this kind of box here. And there's this really famous digital nomad cafe called Shushu Cafe. And you can use that as kind of a good mark point of where to stay. And then there's another one called Bajo Cafe. And you can see it's kind of in the same little rectangle area. So Bajo Cafe is one of the most famous digital nomad cafes as well. And just to zoom in so you can see what these streets look like. It's chill, right? It's lush. Lots of people walking around, biking. The cafe's right in there. I think this is old street view material because there's new buildings and stuff now. Ooh, hello. Anyway, so this is basically where you want to stay. And I'm not sure if it'll come up, but the locals have sort of named it Colonia Hollywood. Yeah, and it doesn't create that red circle, but yeah, but people call this area Colonia Hollywood. So it's roughly defined by Constituyentes on this side, 34th on this side, 30th on this side, and 10th on this side. There's a little park in here actually as well. And if you can get near this park, that's a great place to be. And this is basically one of the closest spots in the whole city where you can get to the action, but it's not loud because you're right near 10th. And 10th is usually pretty loud, but this area seems to have been spared. And they don't really allow like super loud music in here. So yeah, Colonia Hollywood, or roughly this rectangle, is a great place to stay. Now you can stay in here, sort of near the Walmart and near the Palacio Municipal. But keep in mind, it's going to be a little loud. Like, even if you stay up on 30th here or 25th or something like that, like, you're still going to get a lot of noise from 5th. Like, anywhere in here, I'm sure there's some good spots, but you really got to be careful with the noise. Honestly, I probably wouldn't do it. It's just too big of a risk that there's a bar nearby and it's just going to be too loud. So if you want a more quiet experience, I would do it starting here, and then out here as well, kind of in this area, is going to be more quiet. There's lots of new buildings coming up near CTM, as I mentioned. Some of the most modern buildings in the city, like seriously, like 4-star hotels and this kind of thing. So if you want really high-end accommodations, this is where you're going to be largely looking, is near CTM and kind of CTM south of 10th. Probably got to be a little bit careful with the music depending on where, because there are kind of like some beach clubs right near the water. But in my experience, they've managed to keep this area overall pretty chill. Okay. And then, yeah, what else? I mean, so this is really the most expensive area of Playa del Carmen, is really anywhere in the centro. And then anywhere, this is still really the centro here. And then this area is pretty expensive too. CTM is expensive too, just because, you know, it's all new buildings. And then obviously when you get out to Colosio, it's much more humble accommodations. Or even if it's a new building, it's just going to be cheaper due to the area. So things just get way cheaper here. Some people live out in this area called Nicta. Let's see if I can get a click on it. Nicta. So this is like another very local community. Not too many digital nomads are going to be staying here. A little bit rougher and normal and stuff, but you can get super cheap accommodations out here in this area called Nicta. But it's far. Like, if you're going to go visit buddies, downtown and grab a beer and then you got to bike back or something, it's a little bit far. It's doable, but it's a little bit far. Oh, speaking of biking and just transportation, the other thing I'd mention is that the taxis in Playa del Carmen are just absolute dickheads, basically, son cabrones. And they'll try to rip you off, even if you're a local, even if you've been living in Playa for 5 years, even if you look Mexican, even if you are Mexican, gringo, old, young. The taxis are gonna rip you off. You need to expect it. It's just part of the game. The taxi is not going to be $3 like it should be. It's going to be $10 or whatever it is. Maybe still cheaper than New York City, but it's annoying. And so you got to keep in mind that the further away that you stay, probably the more taxis you're going to pay for and the more annoying situations you're going to have in communication with taxis. And so the best thing you can do is just stay somewhere walking distance so that you can get access to the bikes. And there's actually this thing called Bici Playa where you've seen this in other cities, right? Like in New York and Montreal and stuff like that, where they have like a bike network in Playa. This is what it looks like. It's those dockable bikes. So there is the Bici Playa network in Playa del Carmen. You just need to be kind of close to the downtown and you'll be covered. You'll be within range. You'll have a bike station near you. The bikes go all the way out to 72. And some of them go on the other side of the highway as well. So really the whole city is covered by the bike network. And one of the first things that I do when I arrive in Playa is I pay for the bike pass. It's only like $20 for a whole year. So it's an absolute no-brainer. Even if you don't intend to use it much, just spend the $20 and have that transportation option. But with that, that's a good high-level overview of Playa del Carmen. Again, the rules are kind of stay south of the highway, stay south of 35th if you can. Don't stay in Colosio, stay kind of within CTM. And as I mentioned, my absolute favorite area is in here between Constituyentes and 34th. So with that, you'll have a little bit more information on where to stay in Playa del Carmen. And I wish you a fun trip and best of luck in your travels.